lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and today I'm going to be going through a classic Marvel comic, the one that started the Marvel Universe, Fantastic Four, #1. But before I get into it, I just want to remind you, if you are not already subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, check out some of the dope content we have on the channel. As you can see, we go through comics from the Silver Age. Golden Age hasn't happened yet, but we're getting there. And then modern stuff, interviews, single issues, hardcovers, artist editions, all that good stuff. So hit that subscribe button, check out the dope content, and now let's get into this classic comic by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. This cover is embedded in my mind. I'm sure it's embedded in tons of comic book fans' mind. This is the comic that introduced us to the Fantastic Four. And I love the old comics because they used to have the dialogue on the cover. And I love how we meet them. And you can kind of get their personalities a little bit through the dialogue. Not exactly what we come to know them as in the future, but, you know, the Thing, Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, Invisible Girl, together for the first time in one mighty magazine. And this is the book that, you know, as the story says, is as history tells us, that Stan Lee was, you know, wanting to get out of comic books, and, you know, his wife, Joan, kind of nudged him and said, well, if you're going to leave, why don't you just do a book the way you want to do it? And so he partners up with Jack the King Kirby, and together they create one of the greatest comic book teams with some of the greatest comic book characters in the history of the medium in this one book. I love Jack Kirby. Stan Lee has done so much for comics. Without Stan Lee, there is no Marvel. Without Jack Kirby, I believe there is no Marvel as well. So it's cool to take a look back at this. You know, you get to meet the heroes for the first time. You know, as we start, they're already the Fantastic Four. They're well within their powers. There's something going on, and they get called by that smoke cloud that said Fantastic Four in it, and the team is going to come to take care of this problem that's taking place in New York City. So we see Invisible Girl, right? We get to meet Ben Grimm, aka the Thing, and we see him like shrouded with this, you know, fedora, the glasses, the trench coat, and then he throws off the trench coat, and we see, I love this, what a relief to get rid of those tight rags. We see him burst through the door, and it's not on purpose though, because he's just trying to get out. And they say, like, and they look at him like a monster, and that's the thing and that's what has always caused the Thing and Ben Grimm so much strife, is that he's always looked at as a monster. He was the one that was, I would say, affected the most physically over the rest of the team. And so, you know, he's getting shot at, and he makes his escape through the sewer, and then bursts back out through the street. This lily-livered cowards. That's something you don't read anymore. And I love how everybody's just running scared. The police come, and you know, they don't understand what's going on. Something weird's happening in the city, and those words in the sky, those scattered reports of monsters walking the streets, and, you know, his partner's like, but what does it add up to? And so then we meet Johnny, aka the Human Torch, and he's sitting there working on the car at a mechanic shop. As he's making the change, you know, he's like, oh my god, it's a Human Torch. He's like, you know, remember what I said? There's only one thing I care about more than cars. Well, this is it. And so it's funny to see how much the Human Torch has, like, visually changed over time, right? Like, this is just complete, like, flames moving up. Eventually he gets that, like, matchstick type look. And then, you know, what we see him now as, which is more of, like, he has this color scheme. His head will have flames on it. But, you know, here he just looks like a ball of flame. And everybody's, you know, this is the first time they're seeing him. So, they're seeing him fly through the air. Everybody's wondering what's going on. The governor is about to be notified. National Guard is going to be notified. And we see them coming after Human Torch, and, like, he's telling them, you know, get out of the way. And all their planes get melted. And because they're flying so close to him, they all get melted. We meet Mr. Fantastic. His arm's coming up to stop this missile. And now all four of them are together. And as Reed says, you all heeded my summons. Good. There's a task that awaits us. A fearful task. So before we learn of the task that, you know, comes ahead of them, we now get the origin of Fantastic Four. I love that we kind of go in cold, that we meet them first. We see them with their powers. We get to see them post the cosmic rays coming over them. Then, a few 9 pages later, we get the origin, and we meet them before they go into space, and Ben's like, saying, if you want somebody to pilot it, you better look for somebody else. You can count me out. The research hasn't been done. We don't know what's going to happen out there in space. And Sue kind of, definitely a product of its time. It says, unless we want the commies to beat us to it, you need to do it. And she's like, I never thought you'd be a coward. So because she calls him a coward, he says, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so they sneak onto the base, even though they weren't allowed to. They fly up into space, and this is where we see them get hit by the cosmic rays, go straight through the shielding of the ship, and then we see Johnny, right? All of a sudden, he feels like he's burning up. Ben's arms are too heavy. Somebody else has to take the controls. And so they manage to land back on Earth in a somewhat rough landing, but it wasn't fatal, and they get out of the ship, and then Sue begins to disappear. And they're like, what if she's never visible again? And then she pops back in. So she doesn't even know really yet how to control the powers. And then we see Thing, and we see the transformation that takes place as he turns into this rock creature. He's always loved Sue, right, prior to this. And so, like, how can you care for that weakling when I'm here? I'll prove that I'm that you're in love with the wrong man, Sue. And so he swings at Reed, and then Reed, we see his powers take place, and he doesn't understand what's going on. His arms are all outstretched. Johnny turns into the Human Torch, and he realizes it's those cosmic rays. Now I know I've been feeling so warm. And then this is where Reed makes the speech that they have more power than any humans have ever possessed. And then Ben cuts him off. He's like, oh yeah, so we gotta use that power to help mankind, right? And they put their hands together. They decide on their names, calling himself the Human Torch, the Invisible Girl. Ben, puts his hand in. He's like, well, I guess you call me the Thing, and I'll call myself Mr. Fantastic, Reed says. So now we get back to the present day. We see the Mole Man is attacking the street. This is why the Fantastic Four is being called together. And he's showing them pictures. Used to be an atomic plant. And we see that this atomic plant had gotten attacked by this mole creature. And this is what the Mole Man is doing. He's going around attacking different atomic power plants and stealing shit. We see all the different creatures. I love the way Kirby draws monsters. So cool little adventure of them going after the Mole Man. And finally, they go underground and they see it. And they're blinded because they're in a valley of diamonds. And he introduces himself as the Mole Man. They've been separated. Reed and Johnny have been separated from Sue and Ben. And Ben goes to town. He makes quick work of that monster. And then we come back to Reed and Johnny, where they are basically going to get the whole spiel from Mole Man. And he's going to tell them how he got to where he was. He was kind of a loner. Everybody made fun of him because of the way he looked. And then he finds himself at the center of the earth. But somehow when he crash landed in this chasm, he loses his eyesight, he loses most of his sight, and he was stranded, kind of like a human mole. Then he tells them his plan of what he's going to do. He's going to destroy everything that lives above the surface. But not now that Sue and Ben have come, and they make quick work of Mole Man and his creatures. Left him behind, he'll never trouble anyone again, they said. They close off the entrance so where Mole Man's empire is, seal forever, what they think is that he'll never bother anyone again, but that's not the case. As we know hundreds of issues of Fantastic Four. Mole Man has made his return many times. The rest is history. Fantastic Four goes on to become one of the best comic book series of all time. It eventually has the moniker of the world's greatest comic magazine. Get some cool ads in here. Now, this is a reprint from 2018. So, nice little cardstock cover. And then it has some bonus material, which I really dug. And it has, an afterword by Dan Slott. This introduction by Stan Lee from Marvel Masterworks Volume 1 hardcover from 1987. An intro from 1974 from Origins of Marvel Comics hardcover by Stan Lee. So it's cool to see, throughout time, these different intros and to see what has come, since then. We even get the original typewritten synopsis of Fantastic Four #1, which is super cool to see. We get to see some of the homage covers of Fantastic Four #1 over the years. Really dug this. I'm really glad they added this into this facsimile. One of the greatest single issues of all time, started the Marvel Universe, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. If you can find yourself a copy of, obviously a reprint would be the way to go, because the original is very expensive. But I highly recommend getting, this in single issue form. You can get it in trades, omnibus, all that good stuff. But really cool to see this with all the ads. So go pick it up if you can, and make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, I'm out.